Your book, your story, your journey. Rightcoach.ie.
Oh, God, I wish I'd rehearsed this a little bit, but unfortunately I've been landed in it now. You know, I like the idea of the cover and the way it is and the spiral, and it goes back almost to a vellum parchment. When you think about it, language has grown out of our civilization into where we are today. There was a famous person who once said, Edward Bulwer Lytton said, the pen is mightier than the sword. And we don't actually really understand those words. Because as we take a journey through our life, we're learning all of the time, good and bad, right and wrong. And it honors our history and our parentage to view their teaching, and good and bad, with honesty and integrity. Because it's the only way our world can expand and grow. When I look at Carl, I am very grateful to him for the level of teaching he brought into my life.
Thank you.
By being who he is. And I see the book not just as a book of words, but as an invite for every human being to realize that there's a bigger human being within them. And they can find their way out of that darkness through their words, the honesty and integrity that's needed them. Because sometimes those words can be harsh, sometimes they can be difficult, sometimes they can be challenging. We talk about people with mental health problems or issues. They're the ones who are aware. There are so many people out there who have no awareness of the mental health issues, the trauma that they've lived. They don't even experience it because they're not allowed. This is giving permission to people to wake up and realize the path that they can follow to freedom within themselves. When you take a look at the journey that Carl has taken, this book is a mirror of where he is now. But he's going to go on from here tremendously further because he's got that attitude and that care and that attention to detail. He's going to continue to be almost like a detective as he goes back to find more and more pathways forward. Simple things can mean an awful lot to people. You know, I remember reading something one time, and he talks about alchemy and the power of alchemy. There was a story told of a young King Arthur when he was a child, who ended up being minded by a cousin who didn't know who he was a father or an uncle. And the cousin saw him stealing a bucket from the shed. And he went off with the bucket, and the cousin ran after him and said, "What are you doing? Why are you going with that?" And he says, "I'm going to create alchemy." And of course the cousin thought, "Jesus, we're here now, lads. This is going to be turned into gold." So King Arthur, as a young child, put his bucket down, sat watching the bucket, and of course nothing happened. And the cousin got fed up watching him eventually and said, "Hey, you're a fraud," and walked off. But King Arthur said, "I'm not turning the bucket into gold. I'm turning myself into gold." And that to me is what alchemy is all about. And every word in that has the power to be alchemy for someone. And we don't know which word it's going to be. You never know which one of the words is going to open a door to change, development and growth. But with commitment, with honesty, with openness, we can see and create a very, very different world. And we need to honor those people who are struggling with their mental health, because they're the ones who are finding a pathway through the mess. They're no longer victims of silence or corruption. So I'd like to congratulate Carl with the warmest of congratulations I can do. That is such a magical achievement. And I hope he got plenty of crayons to be colored in later. So I would urge you to support it, but I would urge you to read the book and understand his journey and understand the seeds of his growth. Because when you see that, you can't but admire. Thank you.
Hey, cheers. Thank you so much.